Mhm.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay. So I got two separate businesses. I have a home birth and gynecology business that's local. And then I have a telehealth company that is going around in 40 states right now. So one is called Midwife Love, one is called Midwife Rx. Same person as me. My main office is in Vero Beach. I have a satellite location that's in kind of like downtown Melbourne. So for home birth, I usually do a radius of like an hour. So like I'm gonna hit maybe Rock Ledge, Satellite Beach, an hour from my Vero house because I live in Vero. Occasionally I might do some travel midwifery, but a lot of clients that may be in the Orlando area, a lot of times what they do for birth is they might get an Airbnb or a hotel and come over to my side of the state. Some of the services that your clients may be interested in, I do ECVs, external cephalic versions to turn breech babies. I charge $400 for those. For primips, people having their first baby, I like to do them around 35 to 37 weeks before baby gets too low. Multips, 36 to 37. I do a free virtual consult prior, just to ask all the questions and get to know them. I will do them later, but they have the most success when they're done a little bit earlier. Normally, I like to, let's see if I can get this down here. See their records, like an anatomy scan, blood type. They bring some dish towels, a Velcro binder. We keep that on them once we turn the baby until the baby's nice and low in their pelvis. So some of them might be wearing this binder for a couple weeks. They hydrate well the days prior. We do the ECV with ultrasound guidance. We use laughing gas if they're uncomfortable, nitrous. I also do terbutaline to help relax the uterus. I might do a breech birth if my schedule permits and for select clients. So I did have a client, well, I had a lady call me on her due date. She was seeing a licensed midwife, Pam Peach, up in Melbourne. And she was breech, and she called me to see if I would take her first baby. So we got to know each other a little bit. She sent me her records. I looked them over. I said, sure. And then later that night, she called in labor. And then I went up to her house, and she was already 10 centimeters by the time I got there. So literally I met her in person like at 10 centimeters. And we had a nice breech birth, and all went well. Twins, I do twins. Usually I do about 2 sets per year. My normal birth fee is $8,000, but I also do a sliding scale based on income. So, and for twins, I typically charge $10,000 because I like to have more staff there. So I usually like to have 2 midwives and 2 assistants. I also offer a non-stress test, an AFI or fluid check in my office. And I can't accept late transfers sometimes if they're ruled out of a licensed midwife scope. So say they're past 42 weeks, but they want to keep going. They don't want to go to the hospital. I'll take them between 42 or 43 and 43 weeks. Or if someone's like had a bag of water broken more than 24 hours. So let's see here. So Midwife Rx, just so you know, I've collaborated with licensed midwives, direct entry midwives, since I became a midwife in 2004. I worked at a busy birth center down in Miami. There were 5 licensed midwives down there, and I've also taught at a school for licensed midwives. I started this home birth practice in 2010, and obviously was consulting and collaborating with LMs in my area. I've taken postpartum support international courses in perinatal mental health and advanced prescribing. So one of these licensed midwives referred me a client that had such severe postpartum depression that they were agoraphobic and they couldn't leave their house to even go to the grocery. So I wanted to see her and talk to her. And that's kind of like where I realized that I needed a video platform or a telemedicine option. And so that was 2017. And that's when I opened Midwife Rx. And And then it just was an idea to get some organization for all these consults I was doing. And then little by little, other nurse midwives in other states asked if they could work with me. And so currently we're open in 40 states. We have 7 or 8 nurse midwives who have experience in community birth and are very friendly and want to help community birth stay safe and help community birth clients get medications if they need them. Here's a little map of where we're operational. I'm currently working on getting licensed in Pennsylvania, so hopefully we'll be adding that in the next year. Some of the values: we want to have accessible medication services for community midwives, birthing families, anyone really who wants to see a midwife about something. We have obviously compassionate care. We also treat men. Okay, so we do not exclude them if they need something as well. We see any adult. We also could see any girl with a gynecological issue and parental consent. And we also do a lot of support for perinatal mental health, diagnosing and prescribing for depression, anxiety, and sleep issues.
Hey, Angela, real quick before you go on. There was a question in the chat asking if you have any providers in the area that you refer out to for other twin births when you've reached capacity.
Yeah, so the people that I know that are doing twins here in the state are myself, Fadwa, who's in Palm Beach, and Jen Carvalho. And as far as I know, it's the 3 of us.
All right. And the other question is, do you have hospital privileges or know of any CNMs that will do home and transfer as a provider to the hospital if necessary?
Yeah, I do not have hospital privileges, and I do not know of any CNMs that do the both. No.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So for Midwife Rx, if someone's getting an online appointment, it's basically self-scheduling. So people go in, they find out what appointment's going to work for them. Usually we have same-day appointments available. If for some reason one of your clients had like mastitis or like a raging UTI and they didn't find an appointment, you can always message me and I can usually squeeze them in, okay, for those like really urgent kind of issues. The provider is by state. So like here in Florida, it's usually all me. Unless I'm on vacation or something, then it might be somebody else. It's automatically charging a credit card. So $74 gets you the consult and up to 2 prescriptions. If people need more prescriptions, then we charge more money. And there is a Stanford discount pharmacy that is willing to stock things like vitamin K, Pitocin, ampicillin, etc. And they mail it out actually all over the country for us. So we have treatment for common infections, UTIs, colds, inhalers for people with asthma, STI treatment, birth control, herpes management, thyroid medications, if people need some of that. If they got thyroid issues, they could upload their labs, or people could fax or email to us. We do chronic medication refills, so someone, one of you guys have hypertension and you just need your medication refilled, you can come on here. We also do miscarriage care for $200. So I think that this is a big gap sometimes for people who haven't gotten into care with an OB provider or a midwife, and they find out that their baby is no longer viable. And so if they haven't started the miscarriage process, the options we have are expectant management, where we just wait and see if it passes on its own, which is usually safe for maybe 2 weeks if they're not showing any signs of infection. We have a DNC, which you have to have a provider who will do that, or we have medication management. And so we provide that medication management. And usually what I do is I'll pass them my cell phone number, because they're going to be needing a lot of reassurance and texting me and letting me know, is this bleeding normal? Does it look like I've passed everything? So normally we would need a copy of the ultrasound that says no fetal heart rate or fetal demise. We prescribe the Cytotec to her local pharmacy. And then, we charge a little bit more than the usual 74 because we are doing a lot of follow-up with them.
Excuse me, Angie.
Yeah.
2 questions. Do you accept Medicaid or major insurance?
Yeah, we do. I am not a Medicaid provider, and I am out of network with all insurance companies. So sometimes people might submit their payments and get them reimbursed themselves, for not the Medicaid, but for the other insurances. But I don't do the billing like that through Midwife Rx. And through my home birth practice, there's a billing company I work with. But once again, I am out of network, but after the birth, they're welcome to submit and, get money back through that biller, but I am out of network. Yeah. Birth meds. So sometimes this would be directly prescribed to the client who's planning a home birth, medications to help with hemorrhage. Occasionally this might be helped to fill up a home birth midwife's birth bag if she's needing some medications. And say, for instance, someone really wanted to get a shot of vitamin K or something else, like I would say do that appointment by 34 weeks. Don't wait until the last moment. ROGAM. This is a lot of home birthers. Instead of having to go to the hospital for the ROGAM, they can come to Midwife Rx and we can prescribe it and they can get it shipped to their house. Okay. And yeah, so like say for somebody with a UTI, if I'm sending out that prescription to that person, usually their local pharmacy will have their antibiotic ready maybe in 3 hours. So can get them treatment right away. Some of the things we don't treat, we do not do blood pressure, preeclampsia issues in pregnancy and postpartum. Those are very complex issues and usually need to be treated in person with more monitoring, more labs. We do not treat hyperthyroid, but we do treat hypothyroid. If a bipolar client is stable on their meds, I will refill. But if they're newly diagnosed, that's going to require a psychiatrist. And if somebody's on lithium and pregnant, they will need the psychiatrist to carefully monitor their labs. We do not do controlled substances via telehealth. And here is some of my contact info. People can write down. So we have the Midwife Rx website. That's pretty easy to remember and send your people to if they need stuff. We also have the Midwife Love website. It's actually the same phone number for both these businesses and the same fax. And I do take students. So I currently have 2 students. One is located in Melbourne, Christy Lynn. She's been an experienced doula and is getting started in her midwifery program. And the other one that I currently have is Tracy Goddard Johnson. And let me go back to that one. She was a British midwife for 10 years over there and is finally getting around to getting her American license. So she's with me as well. And I am a 2 midwife practice. So Jordan Hall, formerly Jordan Tucker, is also with me. So, we split births, some births we do together, but we're a 2 midwife practice. And she is a licensed midwife and herbalist. So I do have some questions here I'll go over. So I think some of these I already answered, but one of them was, do I provide virtual assistance to midwives for breech or twin births? That's an interesting question. I have not done that in the past. I might be open to it. I think that ideally, all midwives who are doing breech and twins would have had some training with Breech Without Borders or some other organization and learned a lot of the breech maneuvers. So I would probably be open to that, but it would be better if they knew the maneuvers. And so I could just remind them, like, if I'm watching this birth, why don't you try that maneuver? someone who's had no training whatsoever and never practiced the maneuvers, it's going to be a lot harder to explain how to do that in the moment. Let's see. I think I covered that one. How do you build rapport with the hospital that you have to transfer to? I think there's lots of different strategies. For a long while, I would try to bring food whenever I transferred in. So that might be bagels, cookies, coffee, sandwiches, and kind of like trying to, feed the staff that's there. For a long while, I would write notes, thank you notes to the providers who took care of my clients with a little gift card inside for Starbucks or Einstein Bagels. The thing that really helped me the most was finally getting a meeting with the nurse manager of the unit and sitting down with them, presenting our resumes, explaining to them how we're trained, what is our criteria for home birth. That took probably about 8 years of me being in practice and maybe a little bit of blackmail. So that was not an easy appointment to get, but after we did get it, it went really well. How can LMs and CNMs best form collaborative networks in our state? I mean, I think it's really getting to know the people that are around you, exchanging numbers, attending educational events together, attending peer reviews together. I try to host a peer review at my house at least once a year, but I like to go to other ones too. So I think that works the best. We're all doing very important work. So I think the CNMs that are out of hospital, that are community-based, are very open to forming those relationships. I can't really speak for the nurse midwives that are in the hospitals. I've never been one of those. So I don't know. That's going to vary, obviously, depending on the CNM. Okay. 2 more questions here that I thought were interesting. Version techniques. So if you want, I could kind of like walk you through. Let me see if we can do this here. Let me see if I can come out of here and you can see my face. There we go. Okay. So version techniques. So if a client's coming in for a version, I usually have them go to the chiropractor that morning, get everything loosened up and balanced. Hopefully they've been going to the chiropractor their whole pregnancy. They come into the office. We verify that the baby is breech. We look at the placenta if we can. We have them do some knee chest to kind of like get baby higher and out of the pelvis. We give them the terbutaline to relax their uterus so they don't have contractions every time we touch them. We invite them back into the space. Oh, we did a little reboso too. We do some of that. The knee chest might be 15 or 30 minutes, depending on how low the baby was, because we want the baby to be as high as we can get it. So a couple fingers above the pubic bone. Then we've done vitals. We talk to baby. We invite baby to turn. We put on some relaxing music. I like bio oil, so I like to lube up with bio oil. We actually have a video of a version. I think it's on our Instagram account. Maybe it took 5 minutes and it was so beautiful and easy. Not all of them are that beautiful and easy, but that one happened to be. It was a great one for social media. And then we invite baby to turn and we try to turn baby. Usually we try head first, like a little dive. And we check heart tones every 5 minutes, making sure baby's, normal. And then if baby's not turning easily in that direction, then we'll try in the other direction. We'll pause if the mom needs a moment. She has her nitrous mask she can use if things are uncomfortable. And the most I usually try is up to an hour. Success rates for first timers, If they come to me early, maybe 50 or 60%. If they come later in their pregnancy, it's a lot harder. Multips, my success rates are about 80%. It's much easier to turn a multip. I'm finding a lot of these breech babies are with moms who have been weightlifters and have been lifting weights and doing a ton of Pilates in pregnancy and have really rock hard abs. So all of those things are great, but maybe not in pregnancy, you know? So when someone has those rock hard abs, it's like sometimes restraining baby's movement. So yeah, so that's kind of like how the version does. Once we get the baby turned, we strap the baby in with that binder, and we have her do squats around the office, lunges, squats, sit on the ball, duck walking, all the things we can do to get baby lower. Then we have her go for a walk somewhere else for about an hour before she gets in the car ride again. And follow up with her, local midwife or provider. And yeah, so that's the version technique. Protocols for out-of-hospital breech birth. Yeah. So ideally, for a breech birth, you'd want someone who's very committed, who understands risk and benefits. I like the parent class that Breech Without Borders has because it talks a lot about the risk and benefits of vaginal breech birth. And they're very well informed by someone other than myself. So I have done breeches and primips. I have done more breeches and multips. And I have done lots of breech twins. Because usually about 50% of twins have a breech component. So my main criteria is that they're motivated, they're educated, they understand the risks, and that otherwise a vaginal birth wouldn't be contraindicated, and that I have space in my schedule. Because my partner is a licensed midwife, if I have a big trip planned and I'm going to be gone a week or something like that's going to be harder to find coverage for. Because she can't attend a breech birth by herself. So, and then labor should progress normally, just like with the head down baby, and heart tone should be good. And if things are starting not to look good and heart tones aren't good, or we're going a really long time and we're not seeing progress, then we go in and usually it's a C-section. So.
Thank you, Angela. We have two questions in the chat. One was from Midwife Triana. She asked, have you found any issues with prescribing medication for miscarriages here in Florida with the laws now in place regarding abortion?
Yeah, I haven't had any issues. Some pharmacists want to clarify that it is for a miscarriage. But as long as we've clarified that, we haven't had any issues. I know that there is a movement. I don't know where it's based out of, but there are people who are trying to get the abortion pill mifepristone banned, which that doesn't affect me because we don't really prescribe that. It can help a miscarriage. It can actually help it be more successful, but it's so hard to get that we don't prescribe that. But there's another movement to try to ban Cytotec. I don't think that movement will gain total traction because Cytotec is used so much for postpartum hemorrhage and other things. But that, yeah, we haven't had any problem. We've just had a couple pharmacists here and there making sure that, this baby's not viable.
And then there was one more question from Amy. If a mom is concerned of low progesterone in early pregnancy, but can't get in to be seen by her OB for the first appointment, are you able to order labs to confirm and then prescribe, or would they need to provide the labs from a different provider?
No, we can do both. So I prescribe a lot of progesterone, and sometimes we do that presumptively without labs. But if someone really wants labs, we can also prescribe them. And how we would do that is I would send them to Quest. And then, they would go to Quest, and usually the My Quest app, they can get the results on their own pretty easily. If they want to discuss labs, then we have them make another appointment.
And Justine had a question. She said, do you do any prescribing of HRT for trans girls, women?
Yeah, so we would for adults. Yes.
Thank
I
you.
do a lot of HRT prescribing as well for perimenopause and menopause.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I have another question. Hello, Angela. This is Triana.
Hi.
So I'm another CNM in the area. I live in the Tampa area. And so I've taken some courses or some trainings with Breech Without Borders, and also did Dr. Stu's course on Breech. And so I have the knowledge behind it, but I have never actually attended a breech birth or a twin birth. And so, like, having just a backup person for that would be something that would be, I think I had asked the question about like maybe doing like a virtual. And so you answered that. So I appreciate that. Do you know like what the cost of that would be if for like a virtual support for that, if that was something that I wanted to offer to families?
Yeah, I'll have to think about that. But you should definitely send me an email and we can talk about that and what that would include and stuff. Yeah, I'm down for that. And you're probably a couple hours from me. So virtually might be a lot easier than driving over. Yeah. I know that Christine Loria does that as well for people. She's done virtual, so I think she's even more experienced than me. So yeah, you got two resources there, but we can definitely email about it and see what we think would be fair and reasonable. So good to see everyone's faces. I always see names and stuff floating around, but to see everybody here.
I agree. Thank you so much, Angela, for giving us your time this evening. That was a lot of great information. I saw so many people taking notes. I know that means it's sinking in. Does that mean folks might have follow-up questions now that you've had notes? If you want to raise your hand or drop it in the chat, please feel free to do that. We do still have a few more minutes of Angela's time.
Yeah, and if you want, I can send you the whole presentation later in case somebody didn't get some of it. But yeah.
You're awesome. And then, of course, we recorded it, so we'll send like some notes to kind of recap everything that Angela talked about, as well as her contact information, so folks know where to find her. But I think if we don't have any more, I don't want to cut y'all short. So
yeah, a little backstory about myself.
yeah.
I've been a midwife now. This year will be 22 years, so long time. I was a labor and delivery nurse first down in Miami. And I saw a lot of obstetric violence down there. I saw a lot of unnecessary C-sections. It was a really big shock as a new nurse. And so within about 2 or 3 years of witnessing that, I knew that I could not stay and be a part of that. And that's what really motivated me to become a midwife. So I went to the University of Miami when they still had their nurse midwife program. And I didn't know anything about community birth. I just knew I wanted to be a midwife after that. So I went to be a midwife. And on my summer break, I called up a birth center just to see if I could, let's see what a birth center birth is looking like. And I went over to the Miami Maternity Center and saw like 3 births that day and people being treated with respect and love. And I was hooked. And ever since I graduated, I've been working in community birth. So It's a long journey, and some of you are new and some of you are old. Some of you are getting started. I hope that all of you find support and partnership and friendship, because this being a birth worker is so much easier if you have a backup and someone you can rely on so that you can still have somewhat of a life. For many years, I didn't. I had a sole practice, and that was really hard. And I was a single mom for a bit, which made it even harder, and babysitters that I could call at 3 a.m. So I encourage all of you to keep that partnership, to keep nurturing yourself, and don't get burnt out. This is hard work that all of us do. It's a hard environment that we're in, but it's a sacred calling, and as much as possible, we should try to support each other and be kind to each other, even though we might all practice slightly differently and our practices look slightly differently, but we need each other, and our families need all of us.
We have another question in the chat. It's from Amy asking, do you take students for long distance in the Orlando area? If so, what might that dynamic look like?
Yeah, so actually we just finished up. Lauren Wales was my student for the past year, and she was a blessing. And so we were about a year together. So she would come down and do clinic with me Mondays and Tuesdays, and then come to births. If these two students I currently have stay with me, I'll probably be full for students for the next year, maybe 2, depending on how long their schooling takes. But, so I have one student now who's she lives in Georgia, but she's staying with some relatives in Port St. Lucie. So I'm open to having different arrangements, for students, but I'm just, one person right now, precepting. So I do have a capacity. I can't take all students. I have a capacity of 1 or 2 at a time. So.
Hi, I've got another question actually, about like your experience with ultrasound and like how that came about. Did you like just take your own like trainings to be able to do that, or like how did you come about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I took a training a long time ago. It was like basic ultrasound for midwives. They got a couple different courses out there. I have 2 different ultrasound machines. Both are cheapies from China. One of them looks like a little laptop and has pretty good images. And then the other one is called Dr. Sano, and it looks like a butterfly, like it's very small, and it just hooks up to my laptop or my phone. So some of that was training, and the ultrasound I do is basic. So I might do a crown rump length, look for heart activity. I can check fluid levels at the end of pregnancy, check position levels, know where the placenta's out, but I'm not doing anatomy scans, so for that kind of thing, I'm referring out for anything really complicated. But yeah, those basic ones, they're not that hard, and a lot of it's just practice. So I have those. I think a lot of licensed midwives around the state have an ultrasound machine and are learning. They've taken a course and they're learning too. So that's not uncommon. Not all of them do, but I feel like a lot of them do. And here in the past 2 years, I bought an NST machine, primarily because the local places to refer to for biophysicals have just dried up as corporations have taken over more ultrasound places. So I got a cheapo NST machine from eBay, and that saves people some trips to the hospital too.
Now we found that during Christmas time, we had such a hard time to schedule people for the BPPs. Like they could not get any appointments at all. So what would be your suggestion for that?
Yeah, so I mean, if they're willing to drive to Vero, I can hook them up to the NST and do an AFI. So that's kind of like a modified BPP, right? Or if like someone really wants a BPP, then I would send them into the hospital, and they're going to do it there, and they have a little hospital trip and then usually come out the same day. But unfortunately, you got to deal with the reality of what's going on in your area too. So, but a lot of my clients, when they're getting, 41 weeks or whatever, we're doing an NST and a fluid check, if they accept that. And I had one client that I took in this year. She was a traveler and she did not get prenatal care, I think, until she was about 25, 26 weeks, first baby. And she didn't have her first ultrasound until she was 28 weeks, right? So the anatomy all looked normal. But if anyone knows anything about dating a pregnancy, that's not the best time to confirm that our dates are accurate. And sure enough, she was with a licensed midwife, and the hit was hitting 42 weeks, based on what the dates were assumed to be. She might have been 42 weeks, but also there was a possibility maybe she was 40 and a half weeks, right? So I took her on, and she was open to doing NSTs and fluid checks. So I took her on. I think she went about another week and a half. And then she had a home birth, and was able to do that, even though the licensed midwife scope risked out at 42, but she was still able to do that. So, if my schedule and everything permits, I'm happy to do that for people too.
There's another question in the chat. Is there ever an option for a lost mom to attempt to birth a stillborn baby at home with a midwife side tech if needed, or will it always be a hospital birth?
Good question. I think it could be an option. The big problem is here in Florida is that midwives cannot sign death certificates. In other states, I could sign a death certificate. Like, I think they just started that in a couple of states that I'm licensed in. But here in Florida, it still has to be an MD. So my collaborating physician is Nathan Riley. So I know that he has done a lot of work in perinatal loss and hospice and stuff. So if he were willing to sign the death certificate, then that's definitely an option that we could do. I've done second trimester miscarriage management for a select few people. But that's before 20 weeks. Yeah. After 20 weeks, they require that death certificate.
How much do you charge to take on the client at the very end of pregnancy if PCV for breech is unsuccessful?
Yeah, so usually it's like my normal fee minus a discount we give them for all their prenatal care. So typically, like, I would give them $100 off for every prenatal visit. So if they've done prenatal visits for 10, maybe they get $1,000 off. So for a normal paying client, instead of my $8,000 fee, it might be a $7,000 fee. If they are lower income, then once again, we can do the sliding scale discount based on income. That varies. That goes all the way down to $2,500 for lower income. And I also do a couple of BIPOC scholarships every year, if someone is really low income and BIPOC too. So I do have an office manager, so she'll talk with people and discuss and figure out what the discount they would qualify for. Good questions. Yeah, and we just had peer review this past weekend at my house. So I got to see Raina and Lauren there, and Fadwa came up, and some other local midwives too. So it's always good to have gatherings and form bridges between us. You know, I invited probably 5 or 6 more midwives than that, but you know, people get busy, and so peer review virtually. I have not done peer review virtually. I know that some midwives do, and I know that yeah, I've been invited to different peer reviews nationally and stuff too. So I have reviewed some of my own births with Breech Without Borders, but I haven't been to like a group peer review virtually.
Who do you usually invite to the peer reviews? Just licensed midwives? I mean, just, yeah, licensed midwives or
Yeah,
CNM?
I typically invite the midwives that are around me because I feel like they're more likely to come. But I tell them to invite whoever they want. So the midwives that are just south of me are Birth Blossoms. It's Mary and Haley, a mother-daughter team. There's Maya Bond, who's an independent midwife. Tammy, she had the Abundant Life Birth Center, so usually all of her staff. And then so I invite the midwives that are in my direct vicinity. I usually always invite Beautiful Beginnings. And then here recently I invited Lauren and Raina because they were local. And I guess I invited Fadwa because she showed up. So I don't know. I'm typing out an email. Okay, well, all the midwives I can remember. But yeah, if people want to drive or want to come over for peer review, send me an email too, and I'll put you on the list for next time. I'm definitely not trying to exclude any midwife. I just, just sending them out and thinking who's going to drive to come to peer review. We did have one midwife, Mary. She was a little sick and under the weather, so she did attend virtually to the last one.
It looks like folks want to connect next time you're in Orlando. So if you are able to host one time in Orlando, we'll definitely try to see if we can coordinate something and make sure everybody can connect with you. I think that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Maybe we can co-host it for you, Angela.
Okay.
And find a space and
Absolutely. That would be really valuable.
Okay.
We have a few more minutes before the top of the hour, and I think everybody has dropped so many questions and had a lot of great ideas. If anybody has any other questions or ideas, please speak up or drop them in the chat. We'll be happy to get them answered for you. Otherwise, if you think of them after the fact, either send them over to Angela or send them over to us, and we'll make sure she gets them.
Yeah, my emails are pretty simple, midwifelove@gmail.com or midwiferx@gmail.com. So
Perfect. And are you on social media at all, Angela?
I am. I recently have taken them off my phone because they were getting really depressing.
Mm-hmm. It's understandable.
But I do have access to them. But if I don't respond right away, like the quickest is probably my regular email.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for being a part of this space and serving families in the community. We really appreciate y'all.
thank everybody for everything that you do.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll send you some notes to recap this call later. So you should get something before the end of the week. And if you want, we have a virtual networking opportunity. So every month, tomorrow is our January one, and we'll have another one the third Wednesday of February. So we'll see you back in the space if you'd like. Have a great evening, everyone. Happy
Have a great
January.
evening. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank
Bye,
you,
y'all.
guys. Good to see you.
Thank you so much, Angela. We really appreciate it.
Yay. I'm glad. It was good to see everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I think that this work is like, I didn't think at 50 I was going to start doing this. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. But
Yeah, well, my other student right now is 58.
Yeah.
And the one who's just starting is I think she's 48.
My wife was like, go for it. Why not? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do really appreciate you and thank you so much. And we would love to work more. And if you need anything from CFBN, please let us know. Anything you want to share or anything you want to, us to put out for you, please do let us know. I would like to coordinate for Pride Month, maybe like a queer birth worker kind of get together, because our experience as students and as providers is very different in a lot of aspects. So
that would be awesome. Yeah. That would be good. What are you growing or breeding back there?
This is my wife's turtle. Her name is Maya.
Oh, okay.
She's hiding somewhere in there. She's either underneath her log or she's on the other side.
Nice. Well, I'm still at work.
We have a full house.
I tried to go home, but then my high schoolers is having like the sax quartet at my house. I'm like, this is too loud. I got to go back to work.
Yeah, I literally like walked in the door. I'm like signing in, walking in the door. I'm like, I'm here. Yeah. But thank you so much, and you have a great night.
Okay, you do. See
Bye,
you.
bendiciones. Bye.
Bye.